Okay, so this video is about... I haven't done videos in a while, so I've been doing like 20 at once or something like that. I don't know. But these are just like a lot of thoughts that kind of had to come out. Integral science. Does that sound like metaphysical whatever? I don't know. At any rate, what is integral science? Integral science, in a nutshell, is the practice of taking the many different scholarly, non-scholarly approaches to reality, the many different facets and theories about who we are, and putting them, seeing the underlying meaning behind them, seeing how everything is interconnected and interrelated, and taking that meaning and seeing a grander unity in all things, some kind of underlying theme, some kind of perennial interpretation that is based off of valid scientific, observable proof. I guess you could compare it to what sociology does, or any real tradition which tries to tie in the grander meaning in things. Integral science is the act of seeing how two things are related to each other from a bigger picture. I wouldn't say it's necessarily about creating a new framework as much as it is sort of seeing how things really are connected, to yearning for that greater meaning. And it obviously isn't nihilist or existential in that sense, but it attempts to embrace all forms of philosophy and see them as a spectrum. Reality is sort of a spectrum of things. It's very complex, but very interrelated. And it has higher and lower forms, it has more and less complex forms, it has shallow aspects and deeper aspects, it has empirical data, and it has inner meaning. And it has all these things, and it tries to see how everything's connected, how spirituality and science don't need to be opposing views, how sociology, archaeology, anthropology all work together, and psychology, and mathematics. It tries to create a network, a collaborative, decentralized view of reality that tries to transcend and understand things from a deeper, more conclusive way. Because I guess you could say the integral scientist, whether he or she be a physician or a biologist or a chemist, tries to see how their field is connected to other fields, how everything's interrelated. And it's not just a form of just rationalizing, oh, well, A is related to B because A and B both share C. It is that, but it is more than that. It's more than just reasoning. I guess you could say it's a higher form of intelligence, often associated with right brain thinking, and by that I mean the faculty of the mind to be able to see bigger pictures in things and see the connections and the patterns that underlie things. And it makes sense that now is a time for more integral science, because people are trying to do this, especially online. Different fields are coming together and doing projects together to try to help each other out and, see the fruits of each other's labors. For instance, there's a project in New York City, I think the person's from MoMA, but at any rate, they're basically trying to create a program, and they have that where scientists and artists work together. So aesthetics and science and practicality have begun to merge in a way. So interesting and creative results on both sides. are a product now because of that connection and codependence, really. And some of the theorists who are integral scientists, so to speak, like Ken Wilber, especially Ken Wilber, have sort of came to some certain conclusions. When you begin to work with different theories and different aspects and try to see how they're all connected in a greater spectrum, as Ken Wilber began to do, you, as Ken Wilber believes, see also a vertical form of development, higher and lower. So that was his way of reconciling two opposing points of view. And it is arguable that it works and arguable that it doesn't work. I'd like to sort of take a middle ground to it, which is integral, I guess integral in itself. That's another way to put it. If anybody asks you, what is integral science, you can say, is the act of the middle way, seeing how two sides are both partially right and partially wrong. We need, it's observable, for instance, in sociology and in psychology. We have developmental psychology. We have a hierarchy. We have a vertical map of how people develop individually. But when it comes to societies as a whole, can we still do this? Can we still apply vertical maps of development? Does that mean there are lower and higher societies? This sounds very controversial. If we see it so black and white, then yes, it's not correct, it's inaccurate, it's very reductionist and oversimplistic. But if societies instead are this greater spectrum with one general tendency over the other, for instance, that's how we map out intelligence, it's very relative to the society, it's relative to the map. No, it's relative to the spectrum of people who have taken it. So, if we can see it sort of as a spectrum, it's more dynamic, it's less linear, it's less boxy. Wilber has been criticized for being boxy, and I guess this series of videos will kind of go over integral science and integral scientists, integral theorists, if you want to call them that. For instance, you have the fruit of the integral science would be something like this, and this is arguably one of the negative aspects, or positive, depending on how you see it. Let me try to get the light better. Can I even get this in? Let's see. This is Aquil. It's Ken Wilber's Developmental Map. It has 4 parts: upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. This side is interior. The other side is exterior. It's very simple. This side is the interior aspects to being a human being, to reality. Our thoughts, our feelings, our direct experiences, our poetry, our culture, all here. Individually, and then as a whole. As down here. Collective and individual are up here. On this side, maps out our more physically observable empirical aspects. So up here you'll have, where you would have, I don't know, feelings and emotions here. Over here you'll have neurochemistry to explain those feelings and emotions. Both are right, but you can't reduce it all to one or all to the other. Obviously, these emotions and feelings and experiences are dependent on our neurochemistry. And down here, how we act collectively, institutions, agriculture, economy, anthropology, systems theory, functions of greater societies, this is all up there, down here. So, and then over here we have cultural meanings and philosophies and greater traditions and all that. So we have this sort of big map of a spectrum of who we are. And some argue that it's a little bit too reductionist, it's too boxy, it's not realistic enough, it's too much of a framework and not enough of a organic way of seeing reality. I'm not going to say that's a bad argument. I think it's true to some degree, but his work has been very successful and also very useful for emerging integral theorists to think about what they're talking, what they have to work with. And I guess in the next video, we'll explore a little bit more. Okay.